In the last years of the 1960s, Soviet engineers asked a simple question with a brutally difficult answer. Could the largest turboprop aircraft ever built be turned into a launch platform for intercontinental ballistic missiles? The answer was a design called the An-22R, and it never left the drawing board. This is the story of why. Between 1969 and 1970, the Antonov Design Bureau, working with Soviet aviation research institutes, studied an intercontinental aviation missile complex. The plan: mount 3 naval ballistic missiles standing upright inside the fuselage of the An-22 Ante, the heavy transport that remains the largest turboprop aircraft ever flown. One studied version carried the D-5 missile complex with the R-27. The idea was mobility. A silo sits in one fixed place an enemy can target. An aircraft can scatter across airfields, stay on patrol, and complicate any first strike. It was an elegant strategic idea, undone by a stubborn engineering firm. Start with the airframe. The An-22 is a high-wing aircraft, 4 Kuznetsov turboprops, a circular fuselage about 5.9 meters across, and a cargo hold roughly 33 meters long, but only 4.4 meters wide. And because the wing sits high, its structural carry-through box runs across the top of the fuselage, near the middle of the aircraft. Remember that detail. Now the weapon. The R-27, a compact, single-stage, liquid-fueled naval missile, about 9 meters long, 1.5 meters across, weighing over 14 tons. It was the most compact option available, and yet it was still longer than the fuselage was tall. And there is the problem in one sentence. A missile 9 meters long cannot lie down inside a hold 4.4 meters high. Stand it upright, and each missile pokes 4 to 5 meters above the top of the aircraft. Every launcher has to cut through the upper fuselage shell and stick out above the spine. Worse, 3 missiles at 14 tons each is a concentrated load near 43 tons, close to a fifth of the entire aircraft's maximum takeoff weight, and all of it has to be balanced around the wing. So where do 3 missiles go? There are only 2 geometric choices, side by side or in a single line down the spine. Side by side fails immediately. 3 bodies 1.5 meters wide need 4.5 meters, wider than the 4.4 meter hole. You would have to build a wider aircraft entirely, and cutting a full-width hole through the fuselage at one frame would sever it like a snapped beam. That leaves a lengthwise hole, the only layout that fits, but it comes at a price paid along the length of the aircraft. Here is where that wing box comes back to haunt the design. The one place you would most want to hang a heavy, expendable load is the center of lift, near the wing, because a weight released there barely disturbs the aircraft's balance. But the An-22R cannot use that spot. The wing carry-through box already occupies the dorsal center line, exactly where a vertical missile would need to stick out. So the launchers are forced forward and aft of the wing, into the 2 worst possible positions for balance. Now fire the missiles. Each one is about 6% of the aircraft's weight, sitting far forward or far behind the center of gravity. Release one, and you get a sudden jump in both weight and pitching moment. Launch all 3 at once, and the aircraft sheds nearly a fifth of its mass in seconds and pitches violently nose up. Launch them one at a time, the realistic case, and the center of gravity marches in big, discrete steps. Fire a forward missile, the balance lurches aft. Fire a rear one, it lurches forward. The crew would be chasing a center of gravity that jumps with every shot, on an aircraft getting lighter by the second. It could reach the edge of controllability before the 3rd missile even left the rail. The protruding launchers create a second, separate penalty. Standing 4 to 5 meters up into the airflow near the wing loop, they would throw a turbulent wake straight back over the AN-22's twin tail fins. And this is not theoretical. When 2 AN-22s were later modified to carry oversized wing sections on their back, the disrupted airflow forced engineers to add a third tail fin just to keep the aircraft pointing straight. A row of missile launchers would do the very same thing, and a rear launcher's rocket exhaust would blast toward the tail on top of it. And remember what this was competing against. The strategic case rested on mobility. An aircraft can be dispersed and stay in contact with command, but an aircraft is also visible to radar and vulnerable to interceptors the moment it is found. Meanwhile, the Soviet Project 667A submarine, already carrying 16 of the very same R-27 missiles hidden in the ocean, it was simply better at the one job that justified the whole effort, surviving long enough to strike back. The Americans tested the same idea and chose the opposite answer. On the 24th of October, 1974, a C-5A Galaxy dropped a Minuteman missile out the back over the Pacific. The missile was pulled horizontally out the rear cargo ramp by parachute, swung upright in free air, and only then ignited, well clear of the plane. No vertical wells cut into the roof, no conflict with the wing. The missile rode near the center of gravity and slid out the ramp that was already there. The test proved the hard part was never carrying the missile. It was releasing it without wrecking the aircraft's balance. A vertical in-fuselage launcher on a high-wing transport was just about the hardest possible way to do it. The AN-22R did not fail for want of a good missile or a capable aircraft. It failed at the junction between the two. The missile was longer than the fuselage was tall, which forced the launchers up through the roof. The only layout that fit put the heaviest load on long arms fore and aft of the wing, where launching would drag the balance through an unacceptable range. Set against a submarine already carrying the same missiles in secret, it offered worse survivability at greater risk. So it stayed exactly where it began, a paper project, documented in Design Bureau histories that left no aircraft behind.